All right, let's bring in our MVP, Rich Gannon. Rich, thank you for joining us today.
Aaron, great to be with you. I wish that the result last night was different. That was an absolute heartbreaker for Raider fans.
Indeed it was, and let's talk about it, because the Chiefs just barely squeezed out a win. A heavyweight fight all the way to the very end. Pretty sure, though, the Raiders now have their attention. Do you believe this rivalry is officially renewed?
There's no question. I mean, you talk to the folks on the other side of it. I think they realize that this is a different Raider team than in years past. They went into Arrowhead a couple weeks back and really gave them all they could handle and got a win there. And then last night, I mean, if you just take away the final drive, I mean, the Raiders did everything right and really should have won that game. And so I think that the rivalry is back. I think the Chiefs have a renewed respect for what the Raiders mean, what the Raider Week means, and they're not going to take them lightly. They didn't take them lightly last night. I really got the sense that the Chiefs knew what they were getting into. This is the different Derek Carr than they've seen in years past, and a more explosive offense, an offense that can go out and score 35 points each week, and a defense that's got some playmakers, some young guys who are starting to figure things out, and just a team that's got some momentum right now, a team that's got some swagger, it's got some juice, it's got some confidence, despite the fact that they missed a lot of practice time last week.
Yeah, the defense having to stay home, of course, with the safety protocols in place due to COVID. Now, you mentioned a different Derek Carr. He has a career high in passer rating, a career high in his touchdown interception ratio. Gruden said Carr was almost flawless last night. He had 4 or 5 balls that were magnificent throws that could have been caught. Talk about what you saw out of Carr in this one.
Aaron, we've been talking a lot about the kind of season that Derek has had, and I've mentioned it a number of times. It's what he does at the line of scrimmage to me that really makes a difference. I don't know there's a quarterback in the game right now that has as much freedom and flexibility and as much control at the line of scrimmage as Derek does. The NBC telecast last night did a great job with the microphone, so you can hear a lot of the conversation and communication between Derek and Rodney Hudson, between Derek and the tight ends. I mean, he's telling everybody what to do. He's telling the offensive line, what runs we're going to run, and we're going to kill it. We're going to check to this, and we're going to slide the line this way. Rip. He's telling where the line where to go, and he's pointing to the hot receiver, and he's pointing to where the free defender's coming from. He's telling Darren Waller, Darren, I need you. Darren, I need you. In other words, coming short motion, you cut up the backside. He's telling the receivers, come on. I mean, he's telling the backs with it. He tells everybody what to do, and that's not typical when you study NFL offenses. I think it's just a guy that has total command of the system. He has a great understanding of what teams are trying to do defensively. He's just an extension of John Gruden when it comes to the play calling. And I just think those guys are in sync right now. There's such a symmetry between the play caller and the quarterback, something we haven't seen in years with the Raiders. But I think Derek deserves a lot of credit. It's as good as I seen him play last night, extending plays, making plays when things break down, fading away from the free blitzer and throwing the ball. As you mentioned, he had a couple drops last night, but he was holding the football and making some big throws in some critical situations. I just think this is his best season by far when you study Derek Carr.
I like that you mentioned the trust between him and Gruden, and you're right. You're seeing Carr use his wheels in situations that the last several years he wasn't maybe necessarily comfortable with doing. Not only that, he's got a tight end, and we saw last Sunday that the top 2 tight ends in the league battling out, which was a lot of fun. Both offenses, of course, love utilizing the tight end position. As a quarterback, what does a guy like Waller do for your defense, for your offense?
It was very clear in watching the game last night that both teams couldn't handle the tight ends. I mean, it was like Darren Waller is a man among boys. When they get him in space, there's not a linebacker or safety in the league that can cover him. I mean, you put your best cover corner on him, and even that doesn't always get it done. And so I think he's demanding a lot of respect and attention. He's getting, double teamed at times, especially in third down and down in the red zone, those areas where he continues to show up and make plays. But, even when he gets the ball in the open field, he almost always makes the first defender miss. He had a pass, last night on the boundary where he made the first defender miss and picked up a big gain. But what a luxury for both quarterbacks, Mahomes and obviously Derek Carr, to have 2 of the premier tight ends in the NFL.
Well, this Raiders team is still in the hunt in the AFC at 6-4 in a rather stacked conference. A lot of teams right there with them. Don't play the Chiefs again. However, these remaining games are super important to keep pace in the AFC, right, Rich?
I'm not so sure they won't see the Chiefs again. I just have a feeling that these two may meet up again in the postseason. My sense is that the Raiders are trending in the right direction and will wind up in the postseason. I mean, they're playing too well on offense right now. There are certain things that really stood out to me last night. We talked a lot about Derek's performance. Max Crosby. I mean, I don't know that he gets enough respect for how he plays the game. He has got a nonstop motor. He never takes plays off. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He just goes hard every single play, and I think he elevates the play of those around him. But I think when you start getting performances like that are very noticeable when you talk to different teams around the league, this is a young defense. We talked about it prior to the show about the secondary. Some young players getting valuable playing time, and I think they're learning each time out. But I just loved what I saw from the entire football team last night. It's unfortunate that the Chiefs went 7 plays and 75 yards in 75 seconds. I mean, it's unfortunate that last drive happened. Several mistakes in that last drive, but when you look at what happened in that entire football game, there's a lot of positives to take away on both sides of the ball. I mean, a lot of really strong individual performances that the Raiders can build on. And
it seems like the prevailing theme for the Raiders has been to overcome adversity. Like you mentioned, it's a young defense. Didn't have a preseason, no one did, but being able to come and go toe-to-toe with a guy like Patrick Mahomes and just to the final end of the game, I think says a lot about this promising young team for the future. As we look to Week 12, the Raiders are taking on the Falcons next. What do you believe is the biggest challenge they face when it comes to Atlanta?
Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. You're going to have to get Matt Ryan off the spot. You have to get him moving around. You have to find a way to affect him like the Saints did. The Saints got him on the ground 8 times. They sacked him 8 times in that game. And, this is a team that's got some real issues defensively. I think the Raiders will move the ball up and down the field on them. But Julio Jones is the real deal. And you're going to have to double him as often as possible. They've got some other receivers that can really stretch the field. And they've got a quarterback that can sling it all over the yard. But you got to get around Matt Ryan. You got to find a way to affect him, and you got to find a way to pressure him. You got to change up the looks. You just can't. He's a veteran guy that has seen it all, and so you have to do a good job disguising your intentions. You're going to try and force him to make as many post-snap reads as opposed to pre-snap reads. But I think it's about getting around him and affecting him. Even if it's not the sacks, sometimes the hits, the hurries, and the knockdowns can be just as effective.
Well, Rich, as always, we love when we get you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Aaron, we'll see you next week. Thanks.